My name is Jackie Murray, and I'm with Ask a Tech Teacher. I'm your guide through these 32 lessons in the fourth grade technology curriculum. This week, we're on lesson, 3, digital tools in the classroom. This is a really great lesson. Um, During this lesson, you let students know all of the digital tools you will be expecting them to use. Many students feel like there's so many, they can't possibly get used to them. And every time they learn one, there's 5 more. So this is your chance to tell them there are a discrete number of tools. We may add some, but basically these are the tools, and they're going to be, let's see how many there are. Class digital tools. So they're all down here. So they're basically going to be those tools. And they don't have to worry, and you're going to show them how to use tools and then relate them to other tools. So once they know these, they're going to be so much better prepared for anything they face in your class, but also in other classes with other teachers who say, okay, today we're going to do a slideshow. And they'll go, what's a slideshow? What is that? That's a digital tool, but how's that relate to anything? So you're going to help them start organizing these thoughts. Okay, vocabulary, lots of the same ones, but there's a lot around email too that they haven't seen before. Bounce, BCC. So you'll cover some of those and use them. Then problem solving, some they've already seen. How do I move between cells and fields? Maybe they haven't. They did use spreadsheets, but maybe you didn't talk about those as fields that they're going to relate to this. So this is your chance to explain how fields are similar to cells and they both are moved around in with tabs. Save without sending, it's some that apply directly to the tools they're using and some that are just similar. I want a free. What does that mean? They didn't really. So this is general digital citizenship. Skills, there are some scaffolded ones: digital citizenship, logins, digital tools. These are all scaffolded, but there are a few new ones. Email. We didn't really get into email before this, especially teaching students how to use it. You definitely want to teach them how to use it, because if you're a Google Classroom School or Google Apps for Education, they may have email this year, they may have it next year or the year after. You want them to be comfortable and ready for that. There's nothing hard about email. So you don't want them to feel like they run into emails, it's hard, so now they can't do techie stuff anymore. Essential question: how does technology make learning easier and more authentic? That is what digital tools in the classroom do. So learn the digital tools to communicate and collaborate. Assessment strategies are very similar to what we've done, except we do throw in one about practice with an email. You want them to do that, using the appropriate writing style, using good keyboarding habits. Often, anytime they're sitting there, you can assess them on the good keyboarding habits. Doesn't matter that you didn't talk keyboarding in the lesson. They're supposed to use it every time they sit down. Join class conversations, tried to solve their own problems. These are pretty typical higher order thinking skills. So these are all really good assessment strategies to use, and they won't surprise them because you assess them in this every week. Class warm-up, have them keyboard. They're on home row. So you're going to use a tool that has part of it that applies to only home row, like Popcorn Typer. Dance Band Typing does, it kind of drops off after that. So let's see, how have students taken what they've learned? Okay, you're going to talk about the evidence board. Once a month or so, have them take 10 seconds and go around the room for whoever has their hand up and tell you how they use skills they learned in last week's lesson, not any week, but last week's lesson in their life outside of this class. So last week, I think we were on keyboarding, weren't we? Yeah, keyboarding. So how did they use keyboarding? Did they type a project for another class? Did they type a message, text message someone? Have them talk about that. Basic rules, just to remind them anytime you're on the internet. Okay, the 3 topics you'll cover in this lesson are logins, online communication, which really is going to be emails, we'll do a little talk about texting, and then class digital tools. So the logins, they're very used to logging in by now in 4th grade. If they want, they can use their annotation tool and write down what their computer login information is, and then take a screenshot of it and save it or email it to themselves as practice, and then erase it. When they close the book, it'll ask them, do you want to save your changes? And they'll say no, or yes, if it's something, if they own the book. If it's a school license, then they own the book. But if it's a room license, then they'll say no, and that goes away, and the next student can just use that. Okay, so they're gonna, they can fill in their computer login information. They can fill in their username and passwords here, and then take a screenshot and email it to themselves. They'll have it then. And let's see, I guess, and then now we're going to start on email. So this, go over email with them, or start with a general discussion of digital communication. Well, that is email, but it's also blogs and comments, forums, texting, Twitter, whatever else you can think of. Don't tell them this, maybe ask them, how do they communicate online, and see what they come up with. They always surprise me. There's something I had no idea they were doing. So, but these are the ones you're going to be thinking about. And then compare and contrast these methods. Why email instead of texting? What does one have the other doesn't have? Why would you use one? Here's a video on email they can watch, because you're going to focus in on email as the most common one that they'll use, the most predictable. So here's a video on it. And then discuss why people like emailing. Here's a poster with email etiquette, very important. They'll have this in their student workbook, so they can enlarge this so they can read it better. But you can go through these steps with them, ask them what they think about this. And how might the structure of an email that they're preparing differ based on its purpose? Common Core talks about writing being appropriate for task, audience, and purpose. So how does that differ when it's an email? How would email make that different for them? So a couple different email programs. They might have Google, Gmail, they might have Outlook, they might have whatever else you have in your school. These are just 2 examples, but you can already see they're pretty similar, although, you know, Gmail took me a while getting used to. So if they're used to Gmail, this is going to look really simple. Ask them what they use at home. Okay, then go over the parts of the email. Have them, if you have live email, have students practice by sending you an email. Okay. Now the digital tools. This will be a finite number of tools. It's not going to be every 50 tools. It's going to be the major ones that they're using. It's going to be all of them, but you're not, the online, you can see we collect all the, where's our online tools are not even listed there, because those are separate. Those are web tools. So annotation tool, go over that with them. I think we talked about it in the last couple weeks. So discuss that with them. If you're using Adobe Acrobat in this PDF reader, then you'll have fill and sign, and that'll bring it right up for them. You have this toolbar of options where they can use the typing tool, or they can use the handwritten tool and do that, and then close out. It'll save it until they close the PDF. So discuss that with them. And then here's all the different ones. Now this is a common digital tools used in classrooms. If you don't use them, cross them out and add the ones that you do. And I would recommend you use the annotation tool to add your notes here. These extra tools you're going to talk about, and these you aren't going to talk about. So next year you've got that already there, ready to go with all the tools you're using. Class Internet Start page, they're very familiar with that. Class website might be new, but let them know where it is and how to access it, and let them experiment with getting on it. if they're using student blogs, there's a lesson in this curriculum on student blogs. So I would just let them know it's coming up rather than getting them on the blogs today. Just let them know that's coming up. You'll deal more with that later, and they'll get excited about that. Class calendar they've used before, but this year, fourth graders, they should take a greater responsibility in keeping that class calendar up to date. You might even have one student in charge of that, especially if you have Google Apps for Education and you have a calendar that can be shared out with all students. Have one of the students monthly in charge of updating when the keyboarding quizzes are, when projects are due, homework is due, that sort of thing. Google Apps, go over that, although that might take a whole class depending upon if this is their first year with it. This might take a lot more time. So you might not end up checking these boxes because you didn't get into as much detail as you wanted. Student digital portfolios, if you're a Google school, they're going to save it right in their Google Drive. But you might have Edmodo or Dropbox or some other way that they save them. You want the students to be familiar with that so they can use it. And that's our internet start page. Okay. And then the class web tools. This is where you'll mention all the number of web tools, and maybe you've counted them all. I haven't counted them for fourth grade, but I'll bet there's over 50 that we use in this curriculum. They aren't all learned separately. They're all using them is very similar to each other, and that's the idea. You use lots of them so students get a comfort level with knowing I can open up almost any web tool and figure out how to use it. So that's a general overview for class web tools. And then the decoding tools, which they've already used. Exit Ticket, have them vote in a poll for which tool they think they'll use the most this year. So list them all and have them pick. Now, if you have time left over, because this is kind of just a summary sort of thing, so how fast it goes will depend heavily on how much students remember from prior years. Let them go to their class internet start page and go to a box of links you've set aside that will use one or more of the tools that you've been talking about. They could also start their homework, the keyboarding, and do their homework and get started on that. Okay, let's see. I don't know if there's anything different in here. This is a good place where they can take note of a login for this. Take note of logins here. They'll have a at-hand list of email etiquette. This breaks down the email for them, which we didn't do in the teacher manual. This is really good for them, right there at their fingertips. And I think the rest of this is pretty much very similar. Okay, that's it. All right, guys, any questions? Add them to our discussion board so everyone can benefit from them. And come see me on office hours on Sundays if you have questions you need help with also. Talk to you soon. Have a great week. Bye.